pronunciation training, where over the next 20 minutes, half an hour, I'm going to teach you two very, very important but advanced tips that are in my English pronunciation coaching program, the British Accent Method, just to give you an immediate breakthrough in your pronunciation and help you to avoid two really common mistakes that you do not want to be making when you're speaking English. If you know these two lessons that I'm going to teach you now, you can save yourself a lot of unnecessary stress and frustration when you're speaking English. And then if you're keen to go further, the two tips I'm about to teach you now are just an example of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of critical things you'll learn in my British Accent Method coaching program, which up until tonight has got 50% off. Okay, so today I'm going to give you a massive amount of value on the 2 points that I've just mentioned. And then at the end, I'm going to explain just a bit about my Black Friday offer. It's the first time I've ever discounted my course by 50%. I may never do that again. I don't like discounting it because I know the value that people get when they join the program. But as a one-off, then I decided to do it this year. But for now, let's just dive right into these two things that I want to teach you today that you can take with you right from today, start implementing into your English speaking, and that's going to help you make a massive breakthrough in your English pronunciation and your confidence in English. So let's dive in. The two tips I'm going to teach you today are things that I've taught very recently to professionals who are in my British Accent Method coaching program. So when you join my coaching program, you get live Zoom to join my live Zoom community coaching calls. The two tips that I'm going to teach you today are things that I've taught students in my community so that they can make a massive breakthrough in their pronunciation. It's been really useful for them, and I know it's going to be useful for you too. So the first thing I want to teach you today is an important tip that applies to most consonants actually, but I see it a lot not being followed with these consonants here. And if you don't follow what I'm about to teach you with these consonants here, it can affect your pronunciation in a negative way. So the first tip I'm going to teach you today is that when you have a consonant before a vowel, to make sure that you're pronouncing the consonant in a pure form and that you're not changing the position of that consonant based on the vowel sound that comes after it, okay, or before it. With multiple consonant clusters in English, consonants can change to be more like each other. That's called assimilation. But what I'm talking about here doesn't have anything to do with that. And this is a mistake if you're doing it. Okay, so I'm just going to get a pen to actually write on the board to exemplify what I'm showing you here. Okay, so for example, if we take the word pot, all right, I'm going to write in blue, pot, where very simply we have a P sound, an O sound, and a T sound. Okay, for the O sound, our lips are rounded. O, 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 O. Okay, there's about space for 1.5 fingers between the teeth. O, 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 O. Maybe 2 if you're really stretching your mouth for this sound. O, 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 O. Okay, but we definitely want at least enough space for 1.5 fingers. O, 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 O. That just makes this sound nice and clear. And before that sound, we have a P. So the mistake that a lot of people will make is they will change the position that their lips are in for the P sound based on the vowel sound that comes afterwards. So if I say the word, the name Pete, one of my best friends is called Pete. So if I write down that name here, what you have is an E sound, E, right after the P, which means because the lip position of the E vowel sound is very similar to the P position of my lips, I'm probably going to pronounce the P sound with my lips in the correct position. P, P, Pete, Pete. Okay. Pete, if you're watching, glad to have you here. If, on the other hand, you have a vowel sound where your lips are in a very different position, O, 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 to the P, The mistake that people can make is trying to pronounce the P sound with their lips in a rounded position, like this. Pot, pot, pot. Okay, their lips are still coming together, but their lips are not flat like they should be for a pure P sound. Okay, so if you're finding that you're doing this and pronouncing this word, for example, like this, pot, 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 it's a subtle difference, but it can change the sound of the P, which can affect your English pronunciation. Okay, it won't affect it too much, but if you're making lots of little mistakes like this can essentially add up over time to make a big change to your pronunciation. So what we want to do is pronounce the first consonant here in its pure position without it being affected by the vowel sound that comes next to it. So what happens is when we do this, we start with our lips in a flat P position, hot, and then I make the vowel sound afterwards, hot, hot. So I go from that pure P position to a pure O position, hot. And I don't let the O affect the position of my P. Okay, just another example of this would be very, very common. I often teach this to people when I'm doing one-to-one work with them, is the number 2, okay, which is spelt TWO, or me too, which is a different word, two, or the weak form of the word to, like I'm going to the gym, which is to, okay, which is a T sound followed by a schwa sound. What often happens again here is people do the same thing. They pronounce the T sound in a rounded position based on the vowel sound that comes afterwards. So if I'm saying the number 2, okay, or me too, what I often hear is people saying two, with their lips already in the oo position, okay? Or if they're saying to, like I'm going to the gym, they say to the gym. If you have Portuguese as a native language, this can be particularly common for you as a Portuguese speaker, whether you're from Portugal, Brazil, or any other Portuguese-speaking countries. This can be an issue. So what we want to do is we want to pronounce a pure T, flat lips, two. Look at my lips. They only become rounded, two, once I've made the T sound. Okay, two. Is that clear? Okay. So this applies to all consonants, but the two sounds that I've just mentioned it here are where I hear it most. Okay, the P sound and the T sound, especially the T, this is the one that you really do not want to get wrong, because if you get this one wrong, it can sound like a ch sound instead, like cheese, ch, which is a completely different consonant sound altogether. Okay, so especially the T, but all of these consonant sounds, and the simple way to do this correctly is just to look at yourself in the mirror when you're practicing. And if I'm saying the word to, I'm just going to make sure, looking in the mirror, are my lips flat for the T? And do they only round for the vowel sound when it's time to make the vowel sound? To. That's correct, instead of true, which isn't. Can you hear this? True. Hear how the T is different compared to two, when I don't do this mistake. Okay, so that's the first mistake I wanted to talk to you about today. Again, it's a subtle, small tweak to make, but it can change the sound of your English pronunciation in a very, very good way. Okay, and again, I go through all of these consonant sounds in comprehensive detail in my British Accent Method coaching program, and there's follow-along exercises so that you master everything that I'm teaching you here today in much, much more detail than I'm giving you now. Okay, but these are the kind of tips that you get in the course along with everything else. All right. Let's move on to tip number 2 that I wanted to teach you today, which is completely separate. It's another bonus tip. And again, this is something that I've observed from working one-to-one with different clients. This is something that we really don't want to get wrong. Okay, and it concerns the 3 nasal sounds here. So I'm just going to see if I've got a board rubber here just to create some space on the board. And then I'm going to carry on. I had a board rubber. I did prepare for this and I had a board rubber here, but I think I have misplaced it. Okay, so what we'll do is instead, I'm going to grab a different colour pen. Oh, I found the board rubber. So let me just rub this off and then we will get on with the next tip. Okay, and just whilst I rub this off, like I said, for the first time ever, I have discounted my course by 50%. There's also not only a 50% discount, but a 60-day 100% money back guarantee. Okay, 60-day 100% money back guarantee. So there's literally 0 risk on joining the program. If you join it, find that it's not right for you, you can get a full refund on the actual course itself within 60 days. So you've got 60 whole days to try it, get results, apply it to your English, see if it works, see that it does work. If it doesn't work for you, then just email me and you get a 100% money back refund guarantee. Okay, so the only risk is not doing it if you feel like you want to improve your pronunciation because it's proven to work, it gets results every time. The only risk is not trying it for yourself and then 60 days from now still being stuck with these problems, compared to having tried it risk-free for 60 days, got the results, and then 60 days from now your English could sound completely different. All right, and your confidence too. So the second tip is regarding the 3 nasal sounds. Okay, I'm not going to teach you how to make the sounds today because I've done that in other videos. I do it comprehensively in the course, especially this one here, the sound, the ng sound. Is very common for learners of English to see this spelt as a G, for example, in the word thing, and think that they pronounce a G, like thing. There are some accents in English that do pronounce it, but in standard British English, the kind you see in the dictionary, you do not pronounce the G sound. Okay, like I said, I'm not going to teach that to you today, but that's just one tip to be aware of right from the start. But here's the more advanced tip that you really want to be aware of when you're trying to speak more like a native British speaker, okay? And that's this. All of these 3 sounds are nasal sounds. What that means is when you're making these sounds, the airflow comes out your nose, okay? So if I say the M sound, and I pinch my nose whilst I'm